The Power Hour is live. KFAN.com/watch is where you can find it. It's all thanks to Quantum Fiber, your world unleashed.
Yes, that's right. We are live. You can check us out. So just so everybody's clear before we open up the microphones here, no last name and no place of work because he doesn't want to be inundated by people looking for emails and interview requests and all that jazz. But John Creasel's here. Mark Parrish just walked in.
Hi.
Hi,
Parrish.
Thank you for the Diet Coke. Appreciate you very much.
John, Mark, John.
All right. And sitting over there, lovely listener to the Power Trip Morning Show. His name is Cale. And welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it very much. And, I say this every day to start the show. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, well, thank you.
That's Cale, everybody.
I'm very glad to be here as well.
You could easily be dead.
Hey, thanks for bringing that up.
That's Corey.
To the point.
If you don't know, that's Corey.
Not a lot of people survive plane crashes, though, right? Normally that ends badly. You now can say you are a plane crash survivor.
Yeah, I can, and I'm very glad it didn't end the bad way.
Yeah. So I'd like to, if you don't mind, start from the very beginning and talk about everything that happened that day. And I believe this is the first time you've told your story. I can't imagine it's easy to tell this story. I asked you before you went in there, are you a very good flyer? And you said you are notoriously not a good flyer.
Oh, man, this isn't going to help.
That's not good as well. But Cale was on the plane that left Minneapolis on Monday and landed in Toronto in the bad weather. Everybody saw it flipped upside down, caught on fire. But before we get to the juicy part, let's just start it right there. Were you flying to Toronto on business? Why were you going there?
Yeah, I was flying to Toronto on business. I've never been there. First time to Canada. I fly for business, I don't know, every couple months. So not a regular business traveler, but, my wife and I, we fly all the time. So we, always on planes. I'm always kind of the nervous one. I want to get to the airport 4 hours before the plane goes.
Yes,
I want to be at my gate, make sure it exists. I'm one of those guys. But that day, everything, seemed mostly regular. There was a little bit of maintenance delay when we were going to take off. So, at the time, it didn't seem like anything. It probably is still nothing, right? It probably was unrelated, but that happens all the time. So otherwise, it was just a normal winter flight out of Minneapolis. Including
when you were about to land, it seemed like everything was completely normal. Didn't feel the plane doing anything abnormal.
No, I mean, I knew I had checked the weather in Toronto. I knew it was a little breezy, cold like it was here. When we were starting to make our descent, they told us, it's a little breezy, so, might be a little bumpy. But, again, nothing unusual, right? I mean, we fly to Vegas quite often, and it's always bumpy coming into there. So, it seemed no big deal, right? And yeah, it just seemed like a normal flight. I was listening to the show. I think I was podcasting the Monday show, so it was Zach and Max doing the show. I think that had ended. So then I had listened to Friday's initials game was going on, and yeah, seemed like a normal flight.
Think if the last thing on earth you heard was Max and Zach filling in on what our boss called Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
The guy next to me afterward, when I found him later, he goes, "What were you listening to on the plane?" And I'm like, "Well, the Power Trip Morning Show." He's like, "Oh, it must have been pretty funny." So they did a good show, I guess.
Wow. So, all right. So let's move into the actual, can you know what? I won't even interrupt you. Just do me a favor. From the moment you're almost touching to the ground and to the moment that you realize you're hanging upside down, can you take me through that? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'll do the best I can.
Okay.
I will say there's parts of it that like everything happens so fast that, and I'm sure there's part of the brain that's like, don't remember that, forget that. So I'll do the best I can. So as we were coming down, right, it seemed fine. Didn't, as a passenger, couldn't tell that anything was unusual. I did have my shade open because I like to watch on the way in, and it was a clear day, right? So you could see everything. But right as we hit, it was immediate that we were on our, tipped on our side, right? And with being next to the window, I could see what at the time I thought were sparks. It reminded me of when you're a kid and you kind of drag a rock on blacktop and there's sparks. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought it was at the time. I obviously, and afterward, have seen the videos where it was a gigantic fireball, but it looked like just sparks. But I knew, okay, this is not good. But in my head at the time, I thought maybe we would just sort of finish that way, right? Like tipped over or tipped on the side, but we would just come to a stop and, get out of the plane. And okay, that wasn't great, but we're here. But then very quickly, like the cabin went dark, all the lights were out, and it was just, we were thrown around, jostled around so much that I really didn't even know at that point, like which direction was up. When we came to a stop, I did not even know that we were upside down at first, because it, like, imagine you're in a dark roller coaster and you're just kind of spinning around. Like, you don't really know which way is which. So I just remember then once we stopped, my first thought was, I have to get out of my seat. I have to get out of here. So I immediately went to unlatch my buckle. I think because of the way the plane was, I sort of used the wall to kind of drop and not like just land on my head. That part is like, I don't have a great remembrance of being upside down. I know on whatever day it was, Zach like really wanted to know what was it like hanging upside down. Yeah. I don't have a super great remembrance of that because it happened so fast and I just wanted to get out of my seat. I do remember though, seeing other people hanging upside down, right? And during this whole time, as I told Chris the other day, the guy next to me kept saying like, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And I don't know if he could tell I was freaking out or if that was him trying to just calm himself down too, but he kept saying, we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. So after I unbuckled, as I was coming down, I lost my shoe. It got caught on something. And when I then got upright, I was like fixated on where's my shoe? I need my shoe. I don't know why, but that was like, I was just I need my shoe. Some guy on my left side picked up my shoe. I got it at the same, like during all this, I was helping the guy next to me, like unbuckle and get down. I know people around were helping each other. Like in this crazy chaotic moment, the amount of help and support that like all the passengers were giving to each other was incredible. Like awesome. Everybody was helping each other unbuckle, get upright. When we got upright, then there was a lot of like trying to find things on the ground, right? So my phone had flown somewhere. I eventually got it back later, but people were trying to find their phones. There was a number of people that had glasses that were gone, right? So they're trying to find their glasses. And, this whole time, then at this point, it felt like everything was taking forever. The news said it was, by the time this happened to when we got out, was 90 seconds. I have no idea if that was true or not.
Felt like a lot longer than that.
It felt like forever. And when, as we're trying to grab stuff, as we could start to smell the jet fuel, that was really where panic really started to set in. At least for me, that was where I was like, okay, this is super serious that like we can smell jet fuel. Yeah. Everything is starting to, smell like jet fuel. And then you could hear people like, is someone getting the door? We have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. And that part specifically, I know felt like forever, just the jet fuel smell and just, we're not moving. Where are we going to go?
By the way, sorry to cut you off. How much darkness is in this moment? You said it was dark.
It was dark, yeah.
So do you have any idea of who is seriously hurt at this point?
No.
So how are those people being helped if nobody can even, see where they're going?
I don't know how many of those people even knew they were hurt. I'm just speculating, but there was so much adrenaline that like I didn't feel, now a couple days later, body's sore, right? I didn't go skiing yesterday, so I don't know how that is, but
it's been a really rough 24 hours for me. You should see my back.
But everything felt great at the time. So I don't know if those people knew. It was dark though. I could probably see the row to my right, the row to my left. I don't even think I could really see across the aisle because it was really bright, and so most people did have their shades down. And there's literally no lights on in the plane. I know they say like, if the lights go out, though, you'll find the walk. Well, I'm sure the walkway in theory was, lit up enough, but that was the ceiling right? So it wasn't enough to illuminate the plane.
Where were you on the plane? How far back?
I was in in Comfort Plus. I got upgraded. I was in Comfort Plus.
Must be nice, Cale.
Yeah. Closer to the front.
Closer to the front. Yeah. So, the point then where I was I thought, okay, maybe this is going to be okay, is when I felt the cold air. So I knew at that point someone had opened the door and like, there's freedom, maybe we can get out of here. And again, I don't really know how much time it was from when I felt the cold air before when I started to move and get out. But that part definitely felt shorter. And I think it was just like, we're going to do this. We're going to get out. The flight attendants, I know, I could hear one of them. They kept saying, leave your bags. Don't turn on your phones. Just keep moving. And at some point, I had a backpack and then a carry-on. My backpack was in my arms. I don't know if I picked it up, if it fell. I don't know, but I had it, and I'm like, I'm not letting go of this. This is coming with me.
Well, you have it in your hands.
Yeah,
already,
I have it.
Yeah, it's not going to take you additional time to find it. That's fair.
And so then it was just kind of waiting as people were, again, chaotic, but sort of in a calm way, single file, like just follow the person in front of you out. When I got to the door, then the flight attendants are like, you're going to have to push the person in front of you. And I say that because, if you think about the plane, the ceiling is, slanted. Well, now that's the floor and it's slanted upward. Mm-hmm. Plus there's jet fuel coming down it. So it was very slippery.
Oh, boy.
And so when that lady said that, I took it to heart, and I don't know who was in front of me, but I'm like, I'm giving you
tush push.
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean, it was push them, and then the ground was a bit slippery, but I got my footing, and then it was jump out, and there was the first couple passengers that got out. Thank God for them. They were there, out, staying right by the plane, grabbing arms, helping people down out of the plane. I know a couple of them, once the fire department came in, they were spraying the chemicals and stuff. I mean, they got doused. They had a couple of them pretty bad, right? But I mean, that was one of the things when I've been reading articles and rightfully so, they're talking about the crew and how they're heroes and all this stuff. One thing that I was telling my wife last night, it bothers me a little bit that, like, yes, those people are heroes, but there were normal passenger people that were also heroes, helping people off the plane, helping each other. Like, I'm not putting myself in that category. I didn't really do much, but, stand there and follow the line. But there were people that, as others are running away, to get away from the plane, they stood there and they didn't know if the plane was going to blow up or what. And they just kept helping. And, those people are really, need to be thanked. And I don't know who they are, but I thank them. And, but yeah, so we jumped out and there was a fire truck, I don't know, maybe 60, 100 yards down the runway that we ran to try to get out of the wind. Cause there's, 40 mile an hour gusts. It's Toronto in winter. It's not warm out. Most people didn't have jackets. Some are just in t-shirts, right? I think there was one guy in shorts, if I remember right. So it's cold. We got out, we kind of huddled, and couldn't believe what in the world just happened.
Again, if you're just tuning in, you don't know what's going on. That's Cale. Cale is a Power Trip listener who was on the plane that flipped in Toronto last Monday, the Minneapolis flight. And he's telling us his story, and he lost his shoe, which seems to happen in every accident of every kind I've ever heard of. We can go around the room and ask questions as well. And well done telling the story, by the way. That's unbelievable. My one question that I guess I haven't even thought of until now: were there any children on the flight?
Yeah, great question. There was one child, and I think if I remember right, somebody helped carry that child off. They were about 6 years old, give or take. But it was the only one. And I do think in hindsight that probably helped the speed of us getting off, right? I mean, yes, adults are in shock and what just happened, but we're also everyone was capable of walking off the plane, where had there been more kids, it probably would have taken longer. So, that day there was a ton of business travelers that probably helped us to get off that plane.
So you mentioned that you saw the sparks but didn't see the flames until you saw the videos after you were, a day later or something.
Yeah.
Did you feel the heat? Could you feel...
Wasn't there an explosion?
Yes, I could feel the heat. And again, I think in my head, I thought, well, this is like just from...
The sparks.
The sparks and like dragging on the ground, right? But yes, I could feel the heat. It wasn't like, touching a fire, but it was definitely warm. The wall was warm. I mean, I didn't get burned or anything, but I definitely could feel the heat. There was then, once we were all off the plane and the fire department was there was then an explosion type thing in the plane. I don't know how many minutes that was after. I don't know what caused it, whether it was something they were doing or just that was when it decided to go, but thankfully everybody was off. And there's a video I saw yesterday for the first time of that explosion after, where the two firemen are like diving out of, so they must have known this was coming because they're diving out of the plane and kind of rolling and running away. So thankfully we were out by that point.
Insane.
Would you ever get on a plane again?
Yeah. We have a flight to New Orleans in May, which is my goal, to be able to get on the plane. I've already started through work where, the employee assistance programs to set up seeing, therapists and counselor stuff. Because we do travel a lot, and I do travel for work, and I want to keep doing that. So the goal is to be able to do that by May.
Well, you're going about it the right way, because talking about it, they had me on after I lost my legs in Iraq. And this was the first time I really talked about it in detail. And it's healing. And the fact that you're able to do this shows you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. It'll take a minute, but stick with it. It's insane.
So speaking of talking it out and in kind of accepting it in your own mind, I saw the video almost immediately after of that guy. I don't think it was you. The guy that just filmed himself walking away, and he just kept saying, "I was on that bleeping plane." I was and it sounded like he had to say it out loud to have his brain process that that's the plane I was just on. I survived it. I was on that bleeping plane. He just kept saying it. How long did it take you to really, truly walk away from it and go how am I alive right now? That should have been it. Hours?
Great question.
Are you even there yet, maybe?
I don't know. I mean, once we got off and I had someone else's phone that I picked up, someone somehow picked up mine. And, then I was able to call my wife and, text friends that, I'm alive and I'm okay and I'm not hurt. I don't know if I probably haven't fully processed it. I mean, I totally get we're very lucky we're here. That isn't a normal thing that would have ended that way. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I'm sure that's something we'll be talking about.
I can imagine. If you don't mind, Christina, I know you can. Could you slide over and share the mic for a moment? This is Cale's wife. And again, if you're just tuning in, and you can see us at KFAN.com/watch as well. Christina, I don't know if she can hear my question or not. Can you hear me? Yeah,
just take sauce.
Or I can leave because I got to go to work anyway.
You
can have my seat. Love you guys. Go to my website. Speak. JohnCriesel.com.
See you in a week. There goes Johnny K.
There he goes.
JohnCriesel.com.
And there he goes. John Criesel on his way out. So because I think this is I obviously as hard as it was for Cale. Christina, thank you for jumping on the mic. I know it didn't tell you you were going to do this. Usually it freaks people out if I tell them first, so I thought I'd just spring this on you. Did you hear about the plane crash first, or did you hear about it first from your husband?
I heard about it first from him. He called me and left me a voicemail with his boss's phone because he didn't know where his was and he couldn't get service yet. But I had a voicemail and I was on a call for work. And when your voicemail tries to write what someone said.
Yeah.
It's okay, I love you. I'm okay, I love you. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Now, you know what? That's the perfect use of that word, though. In that sentence, I would guess.
And it's standard on this show for wives to swear.
Yeah, that's true.
My wife she swore faster than you did. I think she still has the record, so don't worry about it.
But she's never been back on. It's terrifying. But I think, too, he didn't want me to read about it online or hear about it anywhere else. So I think his first response was, I have to tell her myself before she sees something and goes, wait, is that the same plane or whatever? So he told me right away, and then I couldn't get a hold of him. So I'm like, okay, this sucks. But
wow.
But I was like, okay, they're alive. They're outside of the plane. I will just be patient because this can't possibly be an easy thing for anybody to figure out. Delta, the airport, anybody to figure out what do we do with these people now? Because like you said, this doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
So.
Cale, I don't know if you can even talk about this or not, or if you're wanting to, but we all know we've debated it on this show about the $30,000 you've been offered. Did they throw that at you yet? Do you have it in your bank account? Are you guys going to Vegas tomorrow? Or is that something you've been told not to do? Do you mind me asking you about that and what your procedure is going to be?
Yeah, that's fine. Obviously it's in the news. We've been told about it. So, when Delta called and talked about that, they made it clear, like, this is no strings attached. Like, this doesn't prohibit future payments, litigation, whatever. I want to have someone that's a lot smarter than me, though, read it, make sure that there's no fine print somewhere that's good idea doing whatever. So, they did set up a program where they can, put it into account and then eventually you'll get it. And if you don't do that, then they'll just mail you a check. So I'm probably just going to let them mail me a check and, take care of it when the time is right. Like, there's no rush on it from our standpoint. And, not that we're trying to, I don't think anybody that was on that flight is looking for a money grab by any means, but there's also this realization that, like, if one thing goes differently, we're all dead.
Unreal.
Right.
And so,
and we don't know what the next, 50 years of life is going to hold as far as what might trigger in our minds or what, when that'll happen. Right. So, so we're just going to kind of play everything just slow and just a day at a time here and work through it that way.
Cale, we'll break in a moment, but you were driven home. Is that correct?
Yeah. I had no interest in getting right back on the same size plane and coming back to Minneapolis. I definitely wanted to get back to Minneapolis, but not that way. And Delta, I will say, was absolutely fantastic once we got off the plane and they were, trying to coordinate this. They have a whole care team that, people flew in from all over the country to come to help us. And so they helped coordinate getting us driving me and my boss home. They had trouble finding someone that would get us across the border, like a professional driving company. Like, getting across the border was a tough thing. What ended up happening is a gentleman, Patrick, and I know he's obviously not listening, but he was fantastic to us. He was a Delta employee from Detroit that flew in and was like there to help for whatever. And he's like, well, I could just drive him.
Crazy.
And so they're like, really? He's like, yeah. So he rented a big SUV and he took us to Chicago on Tuesday, and then we stayed the night in Chicago, and then on Wednesday, then a professional driving service took us from Chicago home.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the plane did this and how many actually got right back on a plane to go wherever they needed to go?
I don't, because the way that they handled getting people where they needed to go on Monday night, a lot of people their final destination was Toronto for business, and they already had hotels. So they went to those hotels that they already had. I had a hotel room like 2 hours away. We were flying in and then driving to where one of our facilities is. So we didn't have a room, and there was 7 of us that didn't have a room. We were all going somewhere else from Toronto. So we kind of stuck together. And so I know what all of them were doing. From that standpoint, 2 of us drove, 5 of them flew. For all the other, 70 people, or I guess 20 of them were from Toronto, so they probably were good. But the other than 40 or whatever the math is, I know some did drive. I know there was an article about a guy that drove home, but I don't know what the mix was. I don't know how they got home, if they rented a car. Delta was adamant that we were not driving ourselves. They, probably from a liability standpoint of if we're not in the right mental state, but they were adamant we were not driving home ourselves.
His name is Cale. Wow. His lovely wife is Christina. He's good enough to come in and tell us about the harrowing ordeal he went through on Monday with flipping upside down in a plane that landed in Toronto. Marney's here. We're going to bring her in as well. We'll keep you for one more second. Obviously, you can stick around as long as you want. Watch the Initials game, meet Tom Barnard, meet everybody, and hang out. But we'll keep you on the air for one more segment. I got a few more questions for you if you don't mind.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you, Cale. Appreciate it.
More of that after this Power Trip Morning Show on the Fan.
Come, businessman. At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
KFAN.com/watch. If you'd like to tune in early and watch us talk to our new friend Cale. Marney Gellner just got here as well. Meat Sauce is over there. Paris is back here.
Hi.
Cale and Christina, or Christine, I should say, not Christina. Christine are in there.
No, it's Christina.
Had it right the first way.
Did I really?
Yep.
Yeah. See, I wrote it wrong. Anyway, I'm all discombobulated.
By the way, did you play this song on accident?
No, I did it on purpose.
Because getting a boat might be your play moving forward, Cale.
Yeah.
Just get a boat.
Get a boat. Yeah.
Just drive your boat to Toronto.
That's right.
We do have a boat.
Doable. Yeah.
Someone asked me if we were going to upgrade. I'm like, I don't think that's like just spending money is probably the right thing. But yeah,
you got $30K to blow on something. Get a new boat.
Right.
I just asked you during the break. You have kids, and how did those kids process the fact that their dad almost died in a plane crash?
Yeah, our daughter, I'm not sure. She didn't ask much. I think the fact that I was there and you look fine. I don't know if and she said she hadn't seen any of the videos, so I don't know if she fully understood, did we just, hit a couple bumps and whatever. But
sure.
I told both kids then ask any questions as you might have them. And then my son, he had a lot of questions about how many people were hurt and were there kids on the plane and how badly were they hurt? He was very empathetic about that part of it. He's had a lot more questions and, just some curiosities, but I want, to them, I want to make sure that they can fly again with us when we, visit grandpa and grandma or, whatever it is. Right. So I think they're both good, but again, we'll kind of take it a day at a time as we go forward.
Yeah,
well, we also purposely waited to tell them until he got home.
Ooh.
I didn't want to be well, then where is he? When's he coming home? Because I didn't know the answer. So I'm
smart. Yeah.
We're waiting until you can see his face, and then we'll tell you.
Yeah.
Cale, again, in case you're just tuning in, was on the plane that flipped upside down in Toronto. Have you watched the video? I'm guessing you have. And second of all, did the plane landing feel especially hard? I know you're saying it happened so fast and suddenly you're on your side, but did it seem like, oh my God, we just hit so hard?
Yes, I have seen videos. I mean, I've seen probably most of them once, and that's enough. I've read more articles than videos about the safety and the things that the plane had that kept us here and how we're here, right? So that was more interesting to me than continuing to watch the videos of something that I experienced firsthand. I saw it, I've seen enough. Did we know that it was a hard landing? I don't think I really that went through my mind because it was immediately that we were on our side. And that was oh boy, this isn't ideal that we're not upright and just a nice, smooth coasting in. Right. So I don't think I really noticed that it was a hard landing or anything. It was just immediately, this isn't good.
Right. At what point did you know for sure that there was no, excuse me for being so graphic, I guess, but at what point did you realize there was nobody on the plane that had passed?
I guess when we got out of the plane and were huddled behind this fire engine, there was many paramedics and firemen counting us. And I know there were a couple times, the first couple counts, because people are moving, people are, moving around, whatever, the counts were off a little bit, but there was never really a thought in my head that, someone might be dead on there. I kind of was because everybody because I walked out, maybe that was an incorrect assumption, but I just kind of assumed we all got out.
Go ahead, Mark.
What is the process like of processing this besides reading the articles? It's not the kind of situation where you're exchanging numbers with someone, but I would imagine there are people on that plane who need to talk about this with other people who were on that plane. How do you maintain contact or get contact in the first place?
Yeah, so I mentioned the 7 of us that didn't have a hotel room that Delta then put us in a hotel. So we were together then pretty much all Monday night and Tuesday morning. And so when we ate dinner, and I say ate, we really just kind of looked at our food in front of us. We did exchange phone numbers. We have each other's names. We've been texting a little bit here and there, kind of like informational stuff like, oh, Delta called. And as an example, my bag is supposedly showing up today, right? So we just have been kind of keeping in contact on major things. But at dinner and at breakfast, we all talked about what we remembered, what we went through, how we were feeling. We made a lot of jokes, right? You try to laugh and, we're thankful we're alive and that we can make jokes with each other. And, so I think we'll have that. I don't expect us to be, texting forever. We did talk about when we're all kind of settled, let's go out for happy hour and just kind of regroup and talk and stuff. So we have at least the 7 of us have that. I don't know what other people will have or, we'll be able to do, but our little group has that. And so we'll use that as we need.
Cale.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I got to turn my mic on. Excuse me about that. Hey, Cale. I've just been wondering about the whole customs issue. Like when I travel, my passport's in my bag up above me, not on me as a person. So either way, you have to get back into a country, whether you're going into Canada or you're coming back to the U.S. How was there any difficulty in that, or did everybody just happen to have their passport?
Yeah, great question. No, there was so I did have mine. Mine was in my backpack. I had my wallet, car keys, things that you usually don't think about, like, well, I'm going to need this on me when we, roll down the runway. But I did have mine, but a lot of people had literally nothing, no phone, no wallet, no passport. People didn't have contacts, glasses, like all that stuff. So as far as getting in and out of the country, Delta was working with, the customs people to make sure people could get back and forth, right? So like when we were driving across, both me and my boss had our passports, so it wasn't an issue, but they had already spoken with one of the border areas that if we didn't have them, we were going to go through a specific one that knew that of what had happened and, so that we could get through. My assumption is at the airport, there was very heavy coordination to make sure that these people could get where they needed to go because they didn't have, not everybody had their passport.
Cale, it's a hell of a story, and we appreciate you taking the time to come in. Getting your email was just unbelievable, and I will say this too. I'm glad that you're taking care of yourself because I think there's a lot of people out there who would try to shake this off and act as if it didn't affect them much. For those of us who've been in situations before where you thought you might lose your life, it hits you at the moment. It hits you more the night after. It hits you more the day after that. I hope you're doing okay, man. I can tell that this really, obviously, I can tell it's affecting you, and I hope you continue to take care of yourself, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's, like I said, we've already been working on setting up, therapy and just to make sure that mentally we can fly again and, get through everything. Thus far, I've been good. Been able to mostly sleep at night, not waking up jarred or anything. But, the morning I emailed you, I think I was in Chicago and laying in bed, and that day I wasn't sleeping, but, I was like, well, I'm up and the power trip's starting soon, so might as well throw that on. And I think, like I said, when every morning when you do the, I'm glad you're here, it just hit me a little bit that day. And I just wanted to, let you guys know that, I know you're a radio show and you do, funny jokes and some sports. And I'm not even a Minnesota sports fan. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm Packer fan, Brewer fan, right? But I've been listening to the show for 15 years. And through all the ups and downs of life, this show has always been there for a laugh and to take your mind off things. And that's what it did for me on Monday night, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning. And, I just appreciate that you guys are here to do that sort of thing for 3 hours a day.
Well, Delta has offered you $30,000, but Meat Sauce would like to give you an autographed 7th Avenue pizza, courtesy of the Power Trip Morning Show and iHeartRadio.
Wow. Yeah. And Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Congrats.
And strangely as well, we're going to fly you to Vegas, too. No, I'm kidding on that. But,
by the way, that pizza is no strings attached, too.
Well, I'm going to then make it and we'll split it. But
perfect. Yeah, he's going to eat some of it.
It's 90-10.
Yeah. Christina and
amazing
Cale,
story.
like Marnie's hair.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And,
That's amazing.
yeah, stick around, hang around. We will make you a pizza, and you can meet Mr. Tom Barnard. He's on his way in here as well. And, maybe we'll let you come in and play the initials sometime. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be great. My son would be excited.
Yeah, that's great. Right on.
Vikings news in a second. We'll get to some sports, other stuff that we've skipped in the last 40 minutes. Marnie Gellner is here. Mark Parrish is here. Tom Barnard on his way in about 20 minutes. Initials at 8:15 with $85,000 up for grabs. Lots to get to between now and 9 on the Power Trip Morning Show on the Van.
Join me, Zach Halverson, next Monday at Wild Boar in Oakdale for a Michelob Ultra Wolves watch party. Get there at 7 o'clock to watch your Timberwolves in action and to sign up for your chance to qualify for first-round playoff tickets this year. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Sick of this song yet, Marnes, or not? Not yet.
I've heard it several times.
It's the most requested thing.
We're not going to run it into the ground.
Top 20. I'm super flattered.
Yeah, I've been on the phone with Lady Gaga. She wants to cover it. It's incredible.
Is it possible to be super hurt and super flattered at the same time?
Yeah. No, that's the human experience.
That's where
It's all part of it.
Yeah.
Thanks for caring.
All right, this show is surreal. We just talked for 40 minutes to a guy who survived a plane crash. The plane's upside down, no big deal. And in a lot of ways, even more surreal for the Power Trip Morning Show. Tom Barnard joins the Power Trip Morning Show.
That's really him
right now. The
legend,
the GOAT. I mean, there's no other way to say it. We can't butter you up anymore. You're the GOAT. You're. We said it earlier, but on the Mount Rushmore of Twin Cities radio, you're the one that's not debatable. The other three we can fight over, but you're the one, and then we move on from you.
I told you I'd be on at 8 o'clock.
We get you early.
Yeah, it was very nice.
This is surreal that you're here.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is a little better building than I'm used to working in.
That's weird because we complain about this
all the time. That's all we do.
Because this studio hasn't changed in 25 years.
25 years? You've been here for 25 years?
Yeah.
Well, honest
almost.
to God?
Almost.
This location?
2004, I think?
Yes, so yeah.
So 21 years.
Yeah.
Good at math.
Yeah.
Working out great.
I have to help
How
out
did
Sauce.
this happen? I do not know
Sauce
the backstory.
Yeah.
I've known Tom Barnard since I was 16 years old, and I saw that he was going to be on a different show on CCO, and I thought, well, if he can be on that, he can come on here. And I talked to Abbott and Swedberg, and they were like, absolutely. And then these two were like awestruck about it. They were like, of course he can come on, and here we are. Yeah, I've known him forever.
Ian. Yeah, 16 years old.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time.
What were you doing? I don't even remember. You were working at a cigar store.
Shop. Yeah, that's how I met you.
That's right.
And I told you the first time I ever met you, I'm like, I know who you are, but I don't want to freak out about it. And then 2 days later, you showed up to that same cigar shop with new TVs because you didn't like the TVs that were in there.
Wow.
And I am a pain in the ass. There's no doubt about it.
I love him, and I don't know. I don't know what to say.
So you met Tom Barnard and John Randall at that cigar shop.
Yes.
So all of your like early famous connections were just because you were a dumb kid working at a cigar
that
shop.
had no future, and then I ran into those two, and the sky's been the limit ever since.
Man.
You can get rid of the word "were." You're a dumb guy.
Yeah.
No.
Come on.
He's just older now.
He's older.
Yeah.
He's a dad now, too. Look
How
at
about
this.
that beautiful baby?
I know.
Man?
Unbelievable.
Well, thank you.
Little Tommy.
Yeah,
made
little
it.
Tommy. Yeah, Tommy Lambert is what we call him.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many people I'm sure who say this kind of thing to you all the time, Tom. But we owe you a lot, and we're honored to have you on our little show. And I don't know if you were listening earlier, or you've heard through the grapevine, or if you even knew we existed before you came in today. I have no idea, but a lot of who we are and a lot of what we built this show around had so much to do with the effect you had on radio and Twin Cities radio in particular, and the idea that we couldn't beat you at what you were doing. We had to do something completely different. So I stand in awe of what you accomplished, and I have a million questions, but I don't want to bore everybody with the minutia. So let me just ask you, what brought you to radio, and how did you even get started? I don't even know your story about that.
Okay, first of all, if you can keep it up, I need a box of Kleenex.
You got it, absolutely.
Honestly, I'm tearing up over here. I'm not used to being treated this way by radio people. I got to be honest. I really am not. Over the years, it's been very, very bizarre. Well, I got very lucky, first of all. When I was 18, I went to work at 1500 KSTP. That's an AM station, which nobody under the age of 60 knows what that even is. But, what happened was I grew up in North Minneapolis, and there was this program at the time. I graduated high school at 16 years old, and I was just kind of hanging around doing nothing. And they said, well, you should go on this. I don't remember the name of the program. It was a government program. And they said, what would you like to do? And I thought back when I was 15, 1 year earlier. You guys remember the name? You ever heard the name Sam Sherwood?
No.
Sam was a legend in radio back then. He ran KTWB back in the day. Ran the whole company, as a matter of fact. And he called my mother because he had found out my brother Terry was in Vietnam. He was in the U.S. Marine Corps in Vietnam. This was 1966, 67, 67, I think it was. So I'm at Cleveland Park in North Minneapolis. All of a sudden I hear my mother on the radio. I'm like, what is this? Because they called her. I didn't know she was going to be on the radio. So I said, they're going to reach out and try to get a hold of my brother Terry in Vietnam. How is that even possible? And that was the day, man. I said, if you can do that, that's what I wanted. And of course I destroyed the whole thing, but it got a lot worse after that. But it was a situation where I grew up. If you couldn't communicate and talk to people, you were done. I mean, they would run right over you. So I had to learn how to communicate with people and how to deal with people from a very, very young age, because it was a very dangerous situation. There's no question about that. But, I developed this fake raspy voice and all that. Hey, just leave me alone.
From the cigar shop, probably.
Yeah, probably. That's exactly right.
My fault.
So your brother survived Vietnam, and you survived working with Mark Rosen.
Rosie.
Yeah.
And we technically have as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the hell is where's Rosie?
Who knows? On some
He's
vacation.
in the zone.
He's always in Palm Springs or Turks and Caicos or something.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
And he's the godfather of your child.
Yeah.
What you picked that?
Well, you weren't available at the time, so I picked him. Yeah.
He demanded it. Rosie demanded it.
Yeah, Rosie demanded it. He just came over and said, I'm the godfather of this child. And we were like, all right, Rosie. And now here we are.
The word is that the Twins come to championship prominence in '87 was a real springboard for your show. Is that
there's
true?
no doubt about it. Because I've always been a huge Twins fan. I mean, some of the time I was a little kid, I just loved baseball. I just thought it was, you go to the local parks, whether it's North Commons or Cleveland or whatever, it was always about playing baseball. So I became a huge Twins fan in 1961. I wasn't born yet, but yeah, actually I was 9. But in any case, it's just a great game. It takes such talent. I don't think people realize how talented you have to be to reach the major leagues. It's amazing. Marney, you hang out with those people, don't you?
Sure, yeah.
What do you think?
They're very talented.
Yeah. That's it? I got to tell you, honest to God, I'm listening on the way in, and you're talking to a guy, airplane's upside down. And now you bring on a guy whose radio station's upside down. that just struck me immediately. It's like, yeah, that works. That works for me. Anyway, what were we talking about? I forgot.
So your show really takes off with the Twins, right?
Yeah,
Catapults to new stratospheres. So then, what year did Stern and you start to battle? When did he come to the Twin Cities? It was like 96 or something?
What's sad about that?
97?
It was 97?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember because I just didn't even pay any attention to him. I never thought he was that good, to tell you the truth. It was all blah, 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 blah. It's like, come on, whatever. And now he's got some major problems now because apparently he's not doing very well anymore. He's got a lot of money, but,
Right.
What he should do with that is probably, help other people out with all that money. Howard, why don't you do that? That's what we did, Seriously, you got that much money? Why don't you step up and help people? I've never heard him not one time help anybody. But, yeah, he went after me pretty big time, and I just ignored him. It's like, whatever.
Was that your
great strategy?
Yeah.
Right? Because Swedberg has a theory about not pissing downhill.
I agree.
Right? You don't, if somebody's screaming, another show or a podcast or whatever is screaming about how bad you guys are, the best thing you can possibly do is not give them any air. Just don't piss downhill. And that's, Stern was a huge deal, but you basically said, we don't have to acknowledge that you guys even exist.
And by what time Swedberg get here?
I think he's out of town.
Yeah, he got elected to the Country Music
that's
Hall of
right. I
Fame.
saw you.
Hall of Fame.
Country Music Hall of Fame. There you go.
And the Handsome Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and the Handsome Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Because I want to go
First ballot.
face to face and say, you compared my career to pissing downhill. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's wonderful news.
He's good with analogies.
Yeah, he is.
He really is. But no, he's a good guy. I like Swedberg. I don't know him really well, but I met with him a couple of times. You're working with a really decent guy.
All jokes aside, he's like the best.
Yeah, he's the
best.
We like ripping our bosses, but we've been super lucky to have awesome bosses, and have to.
Dave Hamilton was my Swedberg. There's no question about that. He just believed in me. Well, the way the whole thing started, I was doing voiceover in New York at the time, living in New York, 20th Street and 2nd Avenue. My wife calls me and said, we have to make some plans. I said, okay. This is a couple of years after we were married. And I said, what plans do we make? He said, we're going to have a baby. I went, a baby on 20th Street and 2nd Avenue in New York City? I don't think so. That's not going to work too well. And I swear to God, I'm thinking, I'm talking to my wife, she says, oh, okay, well, I got to go, but I'll call you later. As I put the phone, and young people are not going to know what the hell I'm even saying. I put the phone back on the cradle. It's when they had the desktops, right? And literally, the second I put it down, it rang, and I picked it up, and it was Dave Hamilton. He said, hey, do you have any interest in doing morning radio? And I said, yeah, okay. I mean, literally, it was 1 second later, and I knew what I was going to do, because I wanted to come back and raise children here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love New York, don't get me wrong. It's a wonderful place. I just adore it. But it's not a great place to raise a baby, I don't think. So timing in my life has worked out really, really well. You brought up Howard. By the time Howard got here, he had been everywhere else in every other market, and I was able to hear what he was doing to other people. It's like, why would I even acknowledge that?
So who was your competition before him? Who were you battling in the cities for ratings?
WCCO.
Yeah.
Yeah, CCO was big time back then. And by the way, that station had a lot of talent. Did you ever work over there?
No, I did not.
Why, you too young? No, I still have friends that work there. That's why,
Yeah.
Chad Hartman is a dear friend of mine.
Love Chad.
Yeah, Chad's the best.
Great dude. We love Chad, too.
Chad's the best.
But Sydney, I do miss Sydney every single day. That was one of the first things I did, was did an imitation of Sid Hartman. And Sid did not like that at all. He didn't care for that at all, but he and I became really good friends. Another North Side guy. You guys know Sid's story at all? How he grew up?
No.
Nice Jewish boy over in the North Side, very, very poor. And he would literally, and I'm not revealing anything that the public doesn't know about, but Sid spent a lot of his time going tracking his father down at the bars because his mother just would wring her hands. And it was a very, very sad thing. And look what Sid did with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sid was an inspiration for me because I knew that story. And, I figured, well, if Sid can do it, I'll give it a whirl. And it all worked. I think that's a good idea to look back. How did this happen? Was this guy like me at all? He grew up, maybe a generation or two before me in North Minneapolis, but you get the idea. Well, if he could do that, then why can't I do that? And do people still do that? Do they look at, maybe not, and Sid to me is an icon. There's no question.
Sure.
He is. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
Last time I saw him, he didn't know who I was, which really hurts. I wish I hadn't run into him. Yeah. Because I ran into him. It's going to be a real shock. I ran into him at Murray's. Boy, Sid never hung out at Murray's at all, did he?
Was he having one of them butter knife steaks?
Is that your Sid impression?
I thought it was Marney.
I thought you were sick. I don't mean to offend, but that was worse than the plane crash.
Are you kidding me?
Cale's giving the 30K to you?
Yeah. You know what you can do? Can you sing?
Not well.
Not well? Okay.
No.
Because doing impressions is based on singing, basically. Oh. It's a tone, and you achieve that high, mid-range, and low. That's how people do really good impressions. It's like singing.
We have a singer.
Yeah, behind you.
And?
I don't do great impressions.
And it's not Tom, let's hear your Sid. You said you had a Sid.
Let me say something, Bernard. I'm sick to death here. He always cleared his throat. Always. Lester, he was sitting in my booth at Murray's because I was in his booth at Murray's, and he came in and he did not like that I was sitting in his booth.
Oh, my.
He didn't like that at all. No question. But Sydney, very quick story, and I'll just follow your lead on this one. But Sid and I are over, he had a house over on, I don't know if Chad still owns a house, but it was over on the St. Croix.
St. Croix, beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful place. Yeah, really, really nice. And we're over there, and there's an ice cream shop. And I don't know if I can tell this story without tearing up, man, but it's going to be tough. But we're sitting over there, and Sid and I are talking about growing up in North Minneapolis, what a bitch it is, his father, my father, all the rest of it. And he was eating his ice cream cone. So you're me and I'm Sid. And he turns away from me. He's eating his ice cream cone. And he turns and looks at me, and there are tears running down his face. He said, I wish my mom had never died. I still can't tell that story, man. Oh, that was hard. But I mean, Sid died how many years ago? I'm still tearing up over that. But that's who Sid was. Sid had a great heart, man. And I think, to tell you the truth, if you don't have a great heart, you're not going to be very good at this business. I really don't. There are people that think, oh, I'll just do this voice and I'll do it. Unless you can feel the business, you're not going to be very good at it. The happiness, the sadness, all of it.
But before we break, real quick, you were talking about doing voice work in New York, and I find that really fascinating because obviously you right place, right time, you got the job, the call, you come here, and it works out pretty damn well for you. But imagine, do you ever think about what might have happened? Because I know you go to New York and you do that voiceover stuff. Jeez Louise, you'd already kind of made it with one facet of your career by being in New York doing that. Yeah,
but when I found, I did not want to raise a baby in New York City.
But a lot of those people who are doing that are I would guess, went into doing voice work for cartoons and other kind of things, I would guess.
Yeah, because voiceover is not what it used to be.
Right.
It has just disappeared, basically. It was a wonderful business at the time. To be honest with you, SAG and AFTRA did make them overpay. I mean, you did a commercial, you made tons of money.
Yeah. We missed that.
Yes, we do miss that.
Not our era.
I'm afraid I'm not going to get to ask you if I don't ask you now before we go to break. And we got a couple more seconds, but I got to ask you, do you love radio?
Oh, God, yes. I will always love. That's why I'm here. Otherwise, if I didn't love radio, I wouldn't have come here today.
Right.
There's no question about it. I think it's a different business than it used to be. And I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, because I've been doing a podcast now for 13 or 14 years too, but I don't think podcasting will ever replace radio because of things like this. You could do this on a podcast and there's like, well, good, whatever. Just to sit in your car and not have to mess around. I know you can get podcasts in your car and all the rest of it, but just to hit that button and hear what you want to hear, there's a magic there for me. And maybe it's because of, my age group and all the rest of that stuff, but it's just not the same. I listen to podcasts and I listen to radio shows, but I was so fascinated. Once again, Cleveland Park, 15 years old, and the radio told me what I was going to do for the rest of my life by talking to my mother about finding my brother in Vietnam. I said, man, if I could do that, that's what I want to do. So I will always love radio. It's never going to go completely away. I wouldn't think.
No way.
I just think it's very, very important. You guys do a tremendous job with that. I don't know. I love it too much to talk about. It's just, there's parts of it that a lot of the companies now are just, they're in it for the money. They tank radio stations just for write-offs. I mean, why are you doing that to the people?
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Agreed.
It's too bad. Where's Swedberg?
You should come here on a Tuesday. Tuesday is our day that we complain.
Yeah.
One quick thing before we go to break, too, because so we've had a lot of people over the years ask, what's the secret sauce to this show? Or like, how has it worked? And you said something on your podcast yesterday that I think we've been saying forever. I heard you say yesterday that you can only be 90% of yourself on the radio. The other 10% is just basically BS, right? You got to fill in the because you're talking for hours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which that struck a chord with me big time because I've always said that's why I think our show works is we're all exaggerations of ourselves, but it's it's sincerity though. It's like we're us on steroids. None of us are quite like this when we go home. But we're still not acting.
No,
and the shows that suck are the ones you can tell, especially like on ESPN or whatever, that are super performative. You can tell they're just saying things to say things. We get to be ourselves just a little notch or two up in that other 10% that you were referencing. I couldn't agree more.
There's no question. God, Marney, I thought for sure he's going to say, Tom, I got to say this. I hope I don't embarrass you, but I thought you tuned in when I said meat sauce sucks.
That's what I get paid to say anyway. He says 50 times a day. All right, Tom Barnard is here. Marney Gellner, Mark Parrish. We'll play initials in like 15 minutes, and one of you has a crack at $85,000 with the St. Paul Federal Credit Union initials jackpot. More with Tom after this on The Fan.
The Fan.